connected to my artistic self through baking, and therefore it is fun, and it brings my passion in the art of baking. Yeah, that is my explanation for baking. So yeah, positive growth requires dedication, and it can be forced, but only if you're willing to do that. Growth sucks. Growing up sucks. And what makes it suck more, let me tell you this. This is the problem with our generation, people. Our generation is dying. Blah blah blah. You know that Greta Thunberg sound on TikTok that like they put Megatron's like background music with Greta Thunberg's speech, which is like stupid, but it's also like it's a Gen Z thing. It's everything is stupid nowadays. But again, talking about Gen Z, growth in this modern age sucks way more than it was back then. It's so much harder, and you know why? Because of social media. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the culprit is social media. It has always been social media. You know why? Because Gen Z takes peer pressure to a much more, I don't know, it takes peer pressure to an astronomical level that is like, it's too much. It's too much for everyone. And I don't know, it's like it's so hard to achieve that threshold that people put up in social media, you know. And it's not even their fault, because they're just, you know, expressing themselves, but it's what we see in social media that makes us feel like, why can't I achieve that? You know, we are so consumed and obsessed, referring to me, honestly. This is my case. I don't know if you are. I hope you are not, but if this is your case, then probably you can relate to what I'm trying to say, is that we are so consumed and obsessed with seeing people working on themselves on social media. Not necessarily them working on themselves, but the outcome of it. Like, you know, they post like thirst traps or especially in TikTok. No, TikTok is just deteriorating. Is that the correct word? Okay, whatever. It's ruining my mental health day by day. It's just too much. But I still watch it because it's fun. It is kind of fun to a degree, but like seeing people on there, especially people who are not from my country, you know, doing thirst traps, having boyfriends and girlfriends and whatever relationship that they want to have. I hate it. You know what? Because I constantly compare to myself to them, and what makes it worse is that most of the time there are either my age, which is 18, or younger. Most of the time they are younger, you know, 16, already being 6 feet tall, and then, you know, so built up, having a career, you know, like Charlie D'Amelio is literally a billionaire. But I wouldn't blame anyone. Like, obviously she has, you know, well-connected parents. The shade, I don't want to talk about that, but yeah, it just, we tend to blame luck and fate for people's growth, people's fast pace of growth because of social media. I mean, blaming fate and luck is true, but it doesn't hinder the fact that you have your own pace of growth, and your growth is unique to yourself, and there's no need to be competitive in growth. Okay, we see young influencers everywhere, you know, making, like, literally I watch a lot of like YouTube, like, people already buying houses at a very young age, and I'm like 18, literally living under my parents' money and not even earning my first month's allowance for my scholarship, and I don't have any money. I'm broke, and yet still I have so much I want to buy, and it's so stressful because I don't have any money. And to see them already buying houses, buying cars, buying whatever the fuck they want at a very young age makes me feel so frustrated at myself. you know. And I again, I blame, oh, they're just, lucky because they're rich parents or whatever, all the bullshit that I put up just to cover the fact that I'm jealous, when I shouldn't be. And you shouldn't too, because again, growth is identifiably individually unique, and therefore there is no need to compete when it comes to growth. I mean, that is on a large scale, like seeing people on TikTok, but even when it comes to studies, like we often see people who catch up a lot more faster than us, and sorry, and we get jealous of them because of a lot of things when we shouldn't be, because again, growth is literally unique to people, to everyone, with everyone. What the fuck am I saying? But yeah, you don't have to achieve so much at a very young age. It is also beautiful on TikTok when I see people who are even in their like late 50s starting to do things that they genuinely enjoy, because there is never too late to enjoy life, to grow. There is never too that it is never too late to grow. That is my point. It is never too late to bloom. Just because you feel like all your life you've been like this shitty person, it is never too late to rebuild your life, and there is no need at all to compare your lives with others. Because I feel like instead of that being this sort of like quote unquote inspirational, motivation for us to like, what, I should work hard. No, it doesn't do that. Trust me, if you look at someone who's rich at a very young age, do you feel like, what, I'm gonna start a business? No, you fucking feel bad for yourself, and it retards your own growth, because you feel like, what, regardless of whatever I'm doing, I'm never gonna be able to achieve what they achieve. Because I think that is the real scenario. At least that happens to me personally. So yeah, it kind of sucks. Another thing that I think really intoxicates the idea of growth itself is the existence of the past. Yep. Oh yeah, by the way, this is tomorrow. I stopped recording. That's why it kind of sounds different, I guess. I don't know. Can tell. But yeah. Back to the point. Yes, the existence of the past, the progress of growth is, enduring the present, which leaves you a past that, stays in your memory. And I like this sort of like tweet. It is a tweet by Mufti Menk, if you know him. He's very renowned Islamic scholar, if I can. Is that how you put it into words? I don't know, but Mufti, I think you know what that means. He said something like, your past doesn't define you, and basically like, don't dwell yourself too much in the past, because I think that is true, and to a degree, because regardless of however you try to forget about it, it still exists, and the past itself is something also that is considerably important, because of the past we know how to act, and we improve ourselves as a person. But also, I think, me personally, I've gone through like quite a ton of shit that that really I hate about myself, for myself in the past. And so taking into words this idea of your past doesn't define you actually sort of like boosts your not energy, but like motivation, I think, to grow. Because your past, despite however bad you were in the past, it's not, it doesn't quite matter. It does matter to people's eyes, I guess, but fuck them, honestly. Like, if they were to judge you for the past that you are, then at the end of the day, you are the one that's gonna improve and not them. So like, why the fuck listen to them? I know this is like a pretty shitty comment because it's coming from me, a person who is so consumed by people's perception, but yeah, this is an advice to me personally. I feel like my growth is so throughout these years, my growth has been so controlled and mitigated by people's like expectations and how people want me to grow as a person. But I feel like as I grow out of high school, I finally feel the true freedom of making my own choices and directing my growth to as how I want it to be, you know. And the past, whoever the fuck I was back then, it doesn't define me as a person. Okay, so I think that is quite it for growth. We'll look back at a few questions that I asked on my personal Instagram. Yep, I will be telling about that soon, why I changed to Instagram. But let's move on to the next topic for this episode, not yesterday, this episode, which is maturity. Now, is maturity and growth the same thing? It is not. And why? We'll dive into the differences later. Again, this is not something that I professionally research or, you know, do some extensive digging. No, it's just like my thoughts, my shower thoughts actually. Like, I literally thought of these points when I was like at random places and at random scenarios, situations. Like sometimes I were to be like on my way to Salat, and then, oh, you know what, this is kind of good point. So like, yeah, okay, back to the point. Maturity. If growth itself was like this sort of was this sort of like cycle of ups and downs in life and in whatever aspect of life in general, I think that maturity itself is a progress. Maturity is not contradictory, but it's the opposite of growth, which is you don't exactly go through up and downs. And maturity, because I think like maturity is the experience of growing up, yeah, and the ability to survive from such traumas or, you know, any harsh experience that we've been through. And so I think it is not exactly a linear path, because maturity itself can also be directed in many ways, but it is a progress that is not necessarily, you know, filled with ups and downs. However, I think that even though it's like this constant progress of going up, like you increase maturity over experience, yada yada, there are certain scenarios where maturity can fall. Like it can decrease, where people somehow like lose sanity and lose the way, lose like their cognitive skills on how to act on certain things, which results in them being, you know, doing bad shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, maturity, but I think like that is like in very rare cases, and in like common real-time scenarios, we are often increasing our maturity over experience. Not over time though, over experience. Okay, but if that's the case, then what exactly is maturity? Is it just solely based on experience? Now I saw this tweet the other day. I think it was yesterday actually. I saw this tweet. It said that your trauma, it was something that I could relate to maturity lah. It was like your trauma made you much more mature, something like that, you know. And I like the way that person, that tweeter put it up into words. It said like, that trauma